Wow. Oh my goodness. I can't believe what I just heard. That was courtesy of Oliver Jones Music. Amazing intro. We really appreciate him doing that for us. His YouTube is linked in the show notes. Please make sure and check him out. Thank you so much, Oliver Jones. This is the My Name is Human podcast, Earth2.io, brought to you by E2.news. I am Human Hazy.
I am Human Kangy.
Hang on. I am Human the Hazy one. We have to get verified on Discord, so we have to say our full name.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We got to do this. Yes, we were specifically requested by Thomas himself. So let's give that one more shot, Hazy. What's your full name?
I am Human the Hazy one.
And I am Human Kangaroo Jack Nicholson. Yes, named after the great cinematic adventure starring a CGI kangaroo.
All right, and we do have a special guest with us today. He's no stranger to the Earth2.io content streets. It's none other than Earth2 Meta. He's a YouTube creator, and we're going to ask him a few questions before we get going today. So, Meta, go ahead and say hello to everyone and kind of tell them a little bit about yourself and how you got into Earth2.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it. I guess I feel like I was really late. And I think everyone thinks that at the moment, although we're all still massively early, right? I think there's that perception. If you didn't get in November, you're late. So
for sure.
Yeah, I got into Earth2 would have been I think it was the middle of January time. And do you know what? I kicked myself because I remember seeing the Facebook ads in late November, beginning of December, and I just completely ignored them because I didn't know what it was. So I missed out on about 3,000% gains, but
but you learned from those.
Well, this is true, yeah. So, but I got in mid-January, and it was actually on Facebook, but it was in a crypto group because I was still trying to grind my way, trying to make some money on crypto, and failing through it always. And somebody posted up saying, "Have you heard of this?" And I thought it was a cryptocurrency at first, so I started clicking through, watched the trailer and bits and bobs, and then just signed up, dropped $30 in. Went straight to Dubai and thought, my God, no one's figured out Dubai yet. And highlighted about 50 squares in Dubai, and then, massive disappointment. And it all kind of went from there. And then I just started buying random single tiles in every country I could think of with no plan at all.
Yeah. So what do you do on Earth1, Meta?
So I run my own business. So I'm quite lucky. I've had my own company for about 3 years in the IT sector.
Nice.
So so it's quite nice. Although the one issue with running your own business and doing Earth2 is, of course, that Earth2 is more fun. So I've constantly got to be dragging myself back to work now, trying to focus on actually getting something done. So
yeah, I understand that. So what made you decide to start doing content? What got you into doing that?
Well, I did have one channel before, which was about betting and gambling.
You are a brother from another brother.
a fellow gambler.
Yeah, well, I say that. It was actually called No Risk Betting. So it's actually a matched betting thing where you're laying off your bets as well. So it was like a no risk gambling strategy channel.
Ah, nice.
Yeah, so that was really interesting. And I got to about 300 subscribers, and it was quite good fun. So I really enjoyed that process. And I guess with Earth2, I went straight away, obviously, to YouTube, like everyone does, to try and find some content and see, right, what's this all about? And there just wasn't very much there. I think at the time, Randy was obviously there. I think Earth2 Mastery had got a couple of videos out, but that was about it, I think, in January.
Yeah, and actually, so I like listening to podcasts on my way to work.
Right.
And I searched Earth2 podcasts, and there wasn't any.
No.
So I said, I'm going to make a podcast.
Yeah. Well, that's it. And I immediately, as soon as I started playing the game, I just had 1,000 questions. How does it work? How did the pricing work? And I thought, if I've got these questions, probably somebody else has as well. So if I start making videos, I might actually get some answers to it. Plus, it's an interesting, fun thing to do. So yeah, that's kind of where it went. And I think I've got better over time. I'm about 35 videos in, and I've loved it. It's gone well.
Your numbers have taken off. So I joined the end of February, and you had like 600 subs when I joined, and you were one of the ones I found, and now you're almost up to 1,500.
Yeah,
amazing growth.
Yeah, no, I'm super pleased with it. Like I say, I think I try and put as much as I can in. I don't tend to do lots of videos. I try and get maybe 2 or 3 a week. I could probably do more and get more views, but I guess if there's not anything interesting to talk about, then I don't do a video. I try and find the more interesting stuff.
Hello, Dashi.
That said, though, I mean, it seems like every couple days they give us something to talk about. So
Yeah, it's something to speculate about or guess about. That's for sure.
right, some announcement or another. Well,
Yeah.
we brought you on, Meta. We have so many things to talk about today. So as much as I want to keep asking you about your awesome channel, and I'm going to be watching more of your videos later today, I'm going to transition us into our first topic, which is something that you had mentioned and we had talked about a bit before talking today, which is the concept of an auction house.
Yeah.
And I just want to throw that out there frankly, for Meta and Hazy to tear into. So what do you guys think about an auction house? Is that something that we could see implemented, and what would it look like?
Shall I go for that first?
Oh,
Yeah, I'll respond after.
I love
we don't have an order. We'll always let you
yeah.
start.
All right,
Sorry
cool.
about that.
Personally, I love the idea. I love the, and I think I mentioned this in one of my videos, like I said, with that potential ideas, and this one for me, along with one other one, which we'll probably cover as well. But the concept of having timed auctions, because obviously we have the bid system, which is kind of an auction, I guess, at the moment, because it's bidding. But to have a time limit on there, like more of an eBay style.
Yeah, and what I would like to see on that timed auction is you set a minimum price. If no one bids on it, and someone bids that minimum price, they get it for that minimum price.
No reserves. I think that would
Yeah,
be.
so a risk. It's a risk if you list it.
I think so, and it also gives exposure to some of the really good properties, because I guess some people are listing like a Vatican property for $5,000, for example. Unless you're searching for $5,000 properties, you're not going to see it. But if it's in an auction and you see the ending soons at the top and things like that, you're probably going to get to see some of the more interesting properties and think, oh, maybe I will put a little bit extra in, because I don't think it's quite hard, isn't it, to get exposure if you've got a really good high value property. No one really gets to see it at the moment.
That's exactly it, especially if you're in a nation, like you said, that folks are not necessarily looking at. So if instead of having to go through each nation, currently alphabetically, instead you've got an auction house with items ending, like you said, 2 to 3 minutes, and maybe instead of just focusing on big nations like United States or UK or France, now you're seeing we've got a 750 tile class 1 Gambia plot that's going.
And there's a whole nother strategy when it comes to auction house. So I used to play Diablo 3 by Blizzard, and they had an auction house for about 6 months, and it was so much fun. It was like a whole different game in itself, and I can see that happening with her too. You study the marketplace, figure out where the values are, how you can. And you think land flippers have a good time? Auction flippers would have even a better time.
And especially if you could see like how many watchers the properties have got. If you could sort by most watched properties and things like that, then you'd really get to see the ones that are most in demand, and that would guide your strategy to buying as well. I think a little bit. If you see that 750 plots in Zambia are really got 50 watchers, it might inspire you to start thinking about where you should be buying as well.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm just thinking about some of the different, trends that have occurred, and we've touched on some of them on the show before, things like, micro states, whatever the case may be, if you see those watchers start to increase in certain countries, you'd be sort of following a trend line.
Yeah.
Like, oh, weird, we've got some increased interest in, I don't know, Luxembourg, for example. Maybe I should get in on that before, it gets even crazier and people are paying an even higher premium.
Yeah. Exactly right. And I know obviously bundling properties as well is another one, isn't it? Everyone's got that one property that no one wants to buy, but if you bundle it in with something decent, then someone's got to pay for it. So,
yeah, you can get rid of it. And the other thing I know we talked about was a sealed bid auction, and I kind of like that idea. Basically, no one can see what the bid is. So it's kind of like those Christmas parties you go to where they have gifts where you do a silent bid.
Right.
So it's like a silent bid system where no one can see the actual bid until the auction is over. So it can really drive the price up because people are trying to not go too
especially low. I think that would especially be interesting for more lucrative properties. We like the Vatican example that Meta had brought up, because now you've got this massively expensive plot and you don't actually know what other folks are bidding. You might actually see some, increased profit for the seller, just because how do you price something like a football stadium for a specific team if there's a fan of that team? Something like that is very specific. So you could use the auction house in multiple ways.
Right, but you'd also have to be careful because your $10,000 tiled property might only go for 500 if there's no demand for it. So you have to be real careful if you're going to list a property on a sealed bid.
How long do you think we'd have before we had complaints of shield bidders? If they bought in a bidding, we'd have within about 3 minutes. I think people will be in Discord. There's shield bidders, bots are bidding. Yeah.
Oh, dude, people would complain if you gave them free money, and they will. They will on Saturday. Yeah. They will on Saturday. Yeah. My egg was only $100. That other guy got $500.
Yeah, right.
Well, the good thing is that at least I don't know how you feel, Meta, but Hazy and I think have reserved ourselves to not getting an egg, but we can we can jump into the.
I'm committing my life to it. I'm doing nothing but getting an egg. Yeah. So I'm going to close the business. I'm going to close the business and just that's my focus.
We'll talk about that.
I love your attitude.
One other thing I wanted to talk about with the auction house was resources. I don't think you could sell one unit of gold, but maybe you have 100 units of gold, or however they measure their resources. You could throw the resources up for auction.
Yeah, and you could even auction things off futures, really, because if our land is generating X amount per, day, so to speak, I'm generating 10 units, then I could trade you.
Now you're getting really deep now.
Yeah.
It's hey,
and of course the big one is EPLs, right? I mean, as soon as the EPLs are right, that an auction site for the best EPLs would be incredible to see.
Oh yeah, I mean, I plan on getting Dork Slayer as soon as it comes out.
Quite the idea. One other thing I did want to mention when we were talking about bundling too is there are folks that, for one reason or another, they want to liquidate their entire profile for, they want to invest elsewhere. They have a financial need in that moment, and bundling an entire profile would also probably be a lot easier than folks that are trying to piecemeal out, their profile right now.
Yeah, and it might stop the people scamming as well, because you see it now, don't you, on Facebook, selling my whole profile, pay me through crypto and things like that.
Oh yeah,
and most of that's, I think, because they don't have the option to sell everything in one go, because it's long and it's slow. If you've got 50 properties, it takes a long time to get out,
right? Unless
you want to go really cheap. But like you say, bundling an entire portfolio together makes a lot of sense.
Well, on that spirit, I think we've talked a lot about the auction house. I think we can transition into the next topic, which is trading of properties. It can be difficult right now to offload larger plots, or some of the nations that have a little bit less notoriety, maybe they're not getting the attention on the marketplace. What do both of you think about trading properties? And this time I'll do it properly. Meta, I'll start with you. What do you think about trading properties?
Again, I think it's a really good, and I think it's quite viable as well. I think there's no logical reason why you shouldn't be able to do it. And I initially thought, well, maybe they wouldn't allow it because of the fee side of things. Earth2 aren't going to get their 5%. But I guess you would just charge a fixed fee for whatever it might be. There might be a 5% on the value, or $1, or whatever it works out to be. So, but yeah, I think the massive plus side of it is not having to go through the sell and buy process. And I think there's a lot of people as well that want to work together within teams, whether it's because they're in a guild or they're working together on a city. And if you happen to own a plot that's in the middle of someone's city that they want to trade for you, you might have one 50 tiles down the road. You can just go, well, let's just do a trade and swap. And you don't have to worry about buying, selling, because there's a lot of trust, isn't there? If someone's saying, well, you buy mine and I'll buy yours cheap, and then the other one doesn't sell back. So it kind of negates that. If you could just do a straight swap, I think it would help with organizing as well, certainly with phase 2 and 3, because I'm already worried about how the city is going to look, because they're so busy and messy on the plots. And if you can't trade and swap, what's it going to end up looking like as a city? So that's why I think the big plus of the trading side comes in.
Yeah, absolutely. Or, there were early purchases that I had made as well, where I just didn't necessarily buy the entirety of what I should have, just through early, I bought, say, 80% of a stadium, and I either didn't have the money or I didn't care enough to make sure I had the whole thing. Well, now instead of having to maybe negotiate with the person that owns the other 20%, I can offer something else and come to, a more mutually beneficial agreement.
Same thing with island properties. I know a lot of people have 3/4 of an island, and someone else took that last quarter. You can kind of arrange a trade for island. So
Absolutely.
it's all
Yeah. And beyond that too, I mean, we're talking about some of these, like when I think of a trade, my thought is always your classic 1-for-1. But with trades, we could do quite a few things. You could trade 10 smaller properties for one larger property. You could offset, some cost differential with cash as well. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that you could structure this.
I mean, you can even do it like baseball, player to be named later, a property to be named later. I mean, you can have all kinds of fun with
Absolutely.
trades.
And I mean, this is all different ways that folks can, introduce kind of different forms of liquidation to their profile, right? They might be changing one property into another, but still maybe they've been having a hard time or they don't have plans for a certain property that they have. Well, now there's a different mechanism to maybe get that out of your portfolio and get something else into it.
And I think it would help with liquidity as well. From a personal point of view, I know that if I see a good property that I want to buy, I know, well, I could sell this other property and then I have to wait and then I need to rebuy it. And you don't want to keep putting bids in because it ties up all your funds, doesn't it? But if you're just looking, you could have out trades on open trades on every single one of your properties without ever having any extra cash in the game. So I think that would help as well, because then it helps a little bit from a liquidity point of view, doesn't it? Because I know when I'm buying, I run out of cash. I see one property, I'm like, oh, I've got a bid on it, and I bid, and now I can't bid on anything now. I've got to wait like 2 days for them to reply.
I live that life. I live that life daily.
And then you just put more money in. That's what ends up happening.
Yeah. Anytime I have $dollars, I'm like, well, what can I buy for $120?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So if you could trade, like you say, you could literally have trades lined up for all of your properties, and you still have cash in your account. Well, not for long, but maybe for a day.
Yeah.
So I know the last point we wanted to talk about on trading on properties is similar to the auction house. Can we do resources in trades? Can we throw in 100 units of diamonds? Throw in some essence? Well, I know that they're not going to let us do essence, but maybe we could trade in.
Yeah, I mean, just thinking about like Hazy, I'm familiar with your profile to a degree. You have a lot of properties that are just larger and better than mine. I have a lot of smaller things. So if I needed to sweeten the pot, if I was just doing a 1-for-1 trade with you, chances are I'm trying to upgrade. So maybe I need to kick Hazy I need to give him some barrels of oil. I need to, he's got a lithium need that I need to fill. So, it's just another way of ironing out these deals that I think that players would really appreciate.
And I think the trading of resources, I think that will have to be there, because the reality is you probably don't own properties on every single resource. And if the tech tree is going to be as complex as we think it's going to be, there could be 50 different types of resource. The average player probably doesn't have. I mean, I know I don't. I've maybe got a few gold mines and a ruby mine, and that's maybe it. But there's no way I'm going to have enough money to buy everywhere.
Yeah, so I'm gonna bring up a point from number 5 on our little agenda, just because it fits in well here. In Shane's most recent announcement, he mentioned that we're going to be able to sell and bid on resources. Right. So this is something, if we can't trade them, we'll be able to. Almost sounds like an auction type thing on resources.
I wonder if that'll be for cash or if that'll be for a separate in-game currency, or maybe even when the crypto comes in.
Yeah, that's a whole different thing. Like, it's very fascinating. Like, will it just be like you have a page that has all your resources and someone can bid on it like they do on properties, or will be a separate marketplace?
Yeah, and I would imagine too, I mean, as it stands, right, anybody can submit any bid on a property on your profile should they want to, even if it's not listed. But if you're generating a ton of resources, are folks just going to be flooding your profile with, crazy bids? I have a feeling it would, be only things that you're truly listing resource-wise. But
so, speaking of crazy bids, that is so on my wish list to be able to block bidders, because I'm tired of getting.
I'm sorry about that, Hazy, but I thought you might
bids.
take it.
That's how we're paying Meta for his appearance on the show, is by accepting a wild bid. But
that's it.
But yes, turning off the $1 bid on a property that's worth 3 times that amount.
Yeah, but I think with the resources, just quickly on that one as well, I don't think you'll have to necessarily list like 50 gold for sale or something like that. You might find that actually you can just create a big pot, because I mean, some of the big players, take someone like Arya Realty, who's going to have so many resources. He may just be able to put, here's 10,000 gold in the market. You can just buy some from him for a fixed price, and people may just be, like a vendor for that particular mineral, I would imagine, because rather than selling them in individual batches, you can just go, well, I'm just going to buy it all from this guy. He's got 10,000, and it will just chip down and chip away at what he has.
Yeah.
So I play World of Warcraft occasionally, and they actually let you sell resources in there. It's an in-game auction house, so you can't sell it for real money. But people trade resources. They trade cloth. They trade minerals. They trade fish. They trade wood. You name it, they can trade it in this auction house. So something like that on.
Well, I hope sand is valuable.
Yeah,
that's pretty much all I've got is desert. So
yeah, I mean, to that,
you want what's under.
Maybe,
yeah,
that's true. That's true.
To that point, I hope that there's a tremendous need for lumber in the Earth 2 world, because I've got a lot of forest tiles.
Well, I was thinking ocean water, but I sold all my money.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
I'm good.
And I hope there's a market for small houses in Timor-Leste, because I seem to have a lot of little small shacks there as well. So maybe that's a resource.
Well, one thing that we were just talking about that I think we should expand on a little bit is we were talking about the concept of liquidity, and how can we operate maybe some different levers to get some cash into folks' accounts or give them different options. And the next topic I'm going to shift to is a bit of a hodgepodge. So we're going to talk about the idea of loans, pawns, and mortgages. So, let's start with the concept of potentially, let's just start with a mortgage. I think a mortgage is a nice, simple one to start with. So let's say you've got a property, somebody wants to own it, but doesn't necessarily want to pay the $5,000 that it costs right now. So what would a mortgage in this scenario, look like? Well, maybe you're paying a few $100s a month for X amount of months, but you have to pay $6,000 total. What are some other sort of options that the both of you see for this? And we'll start with Meta again for things like pawns and mortgages.
Yeah. So I think you're right. I think there's two possible options, I guess. One is that it's managed from Earth 2, and they do an element, especially with the increase of property going up, right? To have some sort of way to have a property deed that you don't fully own until you started paying it off, I think is not a bad idea for bigger properties, and as the prices increase. Not that people should get into debt, but I think maybe you can get some of that money back if you end up not wanting to go ahead. But also the player to player side mortgages, I think, is good, because you're right. I think if somebody is trying to sell a $10,000 US property, someone like a flipper may come in and go, well, look, I don't want to give you 10K, but I'm happy to give you $200 a week or $1,000 a week or whatever it might be.
Oh, and just think of the revenue potential for Earth 2 if they actually set up like a mortgage system. They could just charge 2% interest on a mortgage, and they could just.
And there's also go ahead.
No, sorry, go on.
I was just going to say there's also the possibility with those larger plots too of you could organize with somebody else to pay for it as well, so that it's not all the money's necessarily being put on one person to accrue this huge plot.
Yeah. You could do a partnership, and I might actually buy U.S. land if I could.
I'll go in on a few tiles with you. It's too expensive for me to get into the U.S. by myself, though.
and I guess a lot of people have got money tied up in property, right? And that's the other element of mortgages is borrowing against the assets that you do have. So if you've got $10,000 and you go, well, look, I'm happy to take out a 4K mortgage on that's payable over a longer period of time, just to free again some cash up, just to realize some of the value of those assets. That would be interesting, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and
sure.
And I think that also kind of transitions into the concept of potentially pawning a property as well. And I think most of our listeners are a bit older, but
well, Meta's into gambling.
Do you have loan shark aspirations?
For sure. I love the idea of pawning. I think it's because it genuinely is a business within the game, isn't it? I mean, you could, if you had the cash flow to be able to accept pawns. The problem we've got now, I think, a little bit is that the market is so discounted. So if someone came to you and said, well, I've got a $10,000 US property, they probably can't sell it for 80% off. So the amount that you're going to get from a pawn for it is going to be like 5%, because you've got to pawn it for less than it's worth, right? Which there's a little bit of a challenge with knowing the true value and how much you'd pawn it. But that could be something that you could go out to 2 or 3 pawnbrokers and see who gives you the best price.
If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. So easy. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, many more. You can even make money from your podcast. No minimum listenership required. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today.
And you go, well,
right, and the other thing I would caution against is predatory lending. I don't want to see that in ERC2. I don't want to see 400% interest rates. I think there needs to be a cap on interest rates if they're going to allow that.
Well, I do think that one reason that you do see some of those massive discounts that Meta is referring to is because of how expensive some of these properties are. So maybe in introducing the mortgages or allowing multiple people to pay for a single property, that would actually kind of alleviate and get rid of some of those massive discounts on the marketplace. Because people see those and they go, well, why is this person selling it for 80% off? Well, for them, it's gained 10,000%.
Right.
So 80% off is still a killing, but it looks odd.
And I want people to understand that are new to ERC2, just because your property value is listed as 100,000, it's probably more realistically worth.
Yeah, I mean, especially depending on what the marketplace has done and what your classes are. But yeah, that's probably, if you wanted to liquidate overnight, you've got to go less than 50% if you're really trying to evaluate what you've got.
But I think we are definitely seeing the prices come up. I follow the prices quite closely in the marketplace, and because obviously the early players that bought for 10 cents, 20 cents, all the way up to $5 in the US, there's a limited amount of those players. And so although we're seeing 80% off, whoever's buying it, then when they resell it, it's not going to be 80% off. It's going to be 70 and 60. So it is appreciating in value. And if you look at class ones, I remember maybe a month ago, you could get class ones pretty much anywhere 50% off. And that's not the case now. Now you're looking at anywhere from maybe 20% to 35% off class ones. And it's dropping. There's some countries you can't get. I mean, China's a great example, but that's maybe because it's China. You can't get anything at discount in class one. But other countries in Africa, 10, 12%, you won't find anything less than that for a class one.
Yeah, Kangy and I talked about that, and it's something we took advantage of prior to the UAE release, because people were trying to offload their properties, but now they don't need to. Therefore, the prices are going back up.
And China has been my favorite example, because I do think a lot of the folks that have been buying it are particularly bullish on China and think that it's only a matter of time until prices on China basically explode to second or third most expensive, which they're not there at this point. So folks, to your point, Meta, that are buying it and holding it. It's not even being listed at 10% marked up from what it had been purchased at. Right. It's just not listed. I mean, it's simply not there. Or it's listed for an exorbitant amount. So yeah, the class one has been drying up post UAE for sure.
It will be. And you can imagine, the next 300,000 players that come into the game, the first thing they're going to do is pick up the cheap class ones. And there will be a point where class one, you can't get anything with class one under market. Assuming the game doesn't self-destruct, and we've got a good 12 months ahead of us.
Maybe Noru.
Maybe. I've got one. It was my early purchase. Yeah, I've got one tile. So
I actually sold a 64 tile plot in Noru last week, and I was just flabbergasted it actually sold.
It was very oddly constructed plot.
I've got.
Yeah, it was like eight tiles here, 12 here. It was my first purchase, and it was obvious.
I've got some in Turkmenistan, and that's something's weird is happening with that country. Slightly off topic, but the price is going down still in Turkmenistan. So I've got some class ones that I bought very early, I think in the first week, and they're still going down in value every day. I think something happened with the pricing, but
yeah, I have a mine there, so I noticed that too.
That is very odd. I'll have to. I did not realize that was happening in Turkmenistan, but I do know there's mechanisms where the price will slowly drop if no one's buying there, but I haven't looked at the tiles sold, so that is interesting. Well, there was one other thing actually related to the financial concepts that I wanted to bring up, which was also the idea of writing up a contract so that somebody could actually get a percentage of the revenue for any tiles that a building is on. Did either
So
I don't know.
would
I
that
was
work?
going to, drop that on the floor and maybe have one of you two explain it. One of the smarter folks in this podcast explain how something like that would work.
So I think that's essentially the renting, right? And I think that's definitely going to be a big part of the game. Probably not for anybody in the game now, though.
Okay.
I don't think any of us will end up paying rent. I think we'll receive it, but because we're lucky enough and early enough to own a significant amount of tiles, even if it's 100 tiles, we probably won't need to rent. But I imagine players that are coming in later in the game will, maybe in a year's time or something like that, there's just not going to be the option to build on a class 1. And I assume that there's probably different buildings potentially for different classes. So if you want to build a casino, maybe casinos can only be built on class 1. So if you come into the game in a year's time and you want to build a casino, you're going to have to rent from somebody because
Yes, my Armenian empire is
Yeah, or to that point, if it has to be a class 1 and a certain size, I do believe that at one point, and I could be mistaken, so I don't want to commit too hard to this, but I believe Wolfgang said that certain in-game assets would require a certain size of plot, right? You can't put a football stadium on a one-tile piece of property necessarily. So yeah, you at that point you'd have to somebody jumping into the game would have to go rent a property like that to begin to work on it.
Yeah, and I think the biggest restriction the only restriction that I've ever seen him confirm is heights. I'm fairly certain, I could be mistaken, but I'm fairly certain I did see some comments around him around it'd be like Decentraland, where the height of the build is going to be determined by the size of the tiles, which makes sense.
Okay, right.
So, if you've got a single tile, you're going maybe a meter.
So if you have
a couple of meters.
Yeah, right. If you're one tile, you can only go so high, but if you have
To the moon.
750,
We're all
you can
going.
go much higher. To the moon. All right, so one other point I wanted to bring up from that announcement I referred to earlier, and this was to me probably the most interesting thing of the announcement. It kind of went hidden. You had to really read the announcement to kind of catch it, but Shane talked about building blocks and blueprints and being able to buy and sell these. So building blocks are these. So blueprints. One of my colleagues thought it was tied to blockchain, but I don't think that's the case. I think it's actually an in-game application to where you can build on your properties and you can have someone create blueprints using building blocks to build on properties. And I think that's the resource that's going to bring in third parties that are like architects and creators. It's just a totally new aspect of Earth 2.
That's a very good point, and I hadn't really thought of it that way, because one thing that I'm curious about, and I know a lot of users in Discord are curious about, is what kind of assets are we going to be able to build, and what's our library of assets truly going to look like? What kind of buildings can we have? Can we have vehicles? Can we have animals? These sorts of things. Well, if we're opening that up for other people to potentially get into, then I think it really expands the possibilities of what we can do in the game.
And I wonder if the blueprints could be a bit like, I don't know if you guys play Rocket League, but so you get blueprints in here. So I wonder, and it would be a really interesting way to do it, where you have a set of standard buildings that everybody can build. But if you want to build a casino or a hotel or whatever it might be, you have to unlock, obtain, buy the blueprint for it, and you hold that separately. And once you have the blueprint, you associate that to the plot, and then you can use resources to build it. So I wonder if
that makes a lot more sense for a game than just having pre-blueprints. I think that's probably
because that's another trading
market
as well, isn't it? A bit like Rocket League, you can go with other players and you can trade blueprints, but you still have to pay credits to build the item afterwards. But you can't build it without the blueprint. So that would be interesting,
especially given different objectives that different people have. One thing that Hazy and I have talked about is the racing league that people have planned. Well, if I have a blueprint for something that's more related or germane to that, I could trade it to somebody involved in the racing league project and maybe get something back that's more related to what I'm trying to do, which I'm trying to be a spectator. I'm excited for what they're doing, but I'm not building a racetrack.
So blueprints make sense in the aspect Meta just said, but what about building blocks? What do we think that
I've not heard
means?
the reference to it. When did he reference building blocks?
So if you go to the announcement, he says the platform then allows users to buy, sell, and bid on resources, building blocks, blueprints, and plots of virtual land.
I'm not. I wonder if he just means literal building blocks, like to build like a Minecraft style. I don't know. Do you have to build your property in layers, and you've got to physically build like that? I don't know.
That's what I was kind of thinking. Like maybe you actually have to have like to create a full building, you'll have to have like different building blocks that kind of work together.
That's.
I don't know. It's all speculation.
On one hand, it's sometimes frustrating, but it does allow for a lot of conversation and podcasting and content creation, right? To have.
Well, I already know Meta's going to do a.
There we go.
There we go. Building block.
Well, I think one. Do we have any other additional thoughts on building blocks, or did we want to talk a little bit about the developments in the withdrawal process? Okay, fantastic.
No, we can move on.
Well, let's jump into the credit card withdrawals then. We've had those live now for about, what are we coming up on? Is it 5 days? Yep. And so far we've definitely had some varied results. We've had some big success stories that I think people have posted about.
Yeah, because I know Rolo.
Yes, absolutely. And I've seen some other very large withdrawals that were confirmed with screenshots and such in the Discord, in the Earth2 IO Discord. But on the other hand, there's also some that are kind of struggling with both the identification procedures and it seems with certain banks in general. So what have you seen and what do you think so far? 5 days in about the withdrawal process. Is this a success? Is this a net thumbs up for the team, or is this causing too many headaches to be considered a success so far?
I think it's a big success for sure.
Compared to what we had before.
And I mean, from the UK, I've not really heard from anyone in the UK certainly that's had problems. I don't know if it seems to be something in the US banking system that's causing problems.
It is. So I sold some property just so I could test it, and I did 5 $60 withdrawals, which ended up costing me like $9 per transaction. But you know what? I did it for science.
Take one for the team.
So but none of them but one worked, and so now the one that did work, I went through and all the failed ones I put through on that one. So now I have no pending transactions on my Earth2 settings page.
Oh.
But I don't know where the money is. Yeah, so I'm gonna give it like a week, and if the money doesn't show up on my credit card, then I'll contact support. I'm pretty patient. I'm not gonna go and chat. Where's my money?
The verification process was pretty slick. I didn't do it immediately. I think I did it on Wednesday morning, and I think within 30 hours, my ID and address had been verified. So it's just sat there waiting, and the bank was verified as well. So I think they did the 1 penny check.
Yeah, mine took 3 hours. Mine took 3 hours for the verification.
Yeah, that's not bad at all. I still haven't done it just because I've been waiting for folks that were truly getting their withdrawals in. But that does sound like it's gone fairly smoothly, which is great.
Yeah. The only issue that I did hear of, and I haven't seen it firsthand, but I know that somebody mentioned to me that if you're multi-accounting because you've been building artwork, so you've got maybe 5 different accounts, that you can't have the same 2FA across all of them. And then that becomes an issue when you're trying to withdraw. So I'm not entirely sure, but I think there is some sort of complication. So if you've got multiple accounts, that might need to be clarified at some point as to how that works.
All right, I need to get my wife a 2FA account.
Well, ultimately, though, it does sound like definitely a step in the right direction. And ultimately, we're not even a full weekend. So hopefully, add another 2-3 weeks. Add a few months to this, then we'll be in a much more streamlined, smooth position.
Right, but compared to what we were seeing, like Meta said, it's day and night. It's a huge improvement, and the customer service with ICA is helping immensely. One other issue we did want to talk on credit card withdrawals is if you're a minor, because they don't have a credit card and they might not even have ID. So how can they prove who they are? So they have to basically go to mom and dad. Hey, mom.
Yeah, that's the one interesting thing. And, obviously, I think there's probably some check boxes and whatnot in place that would, in theory, prevent an 18-year-old from using the website, but we all know those aren't particularly strict safeguards. So now they're in this position where they've actually, potentially turned quite a profit, but are maybe only 16 and can't actually go through the verification process. So
they can just hold.
That's there fine. You go.
They just hodl, right?
It's like a trust fund.
Hodl till 2 years. They'll be fine.
Hodl.
They don't need the cash. They're only 16.
Yeah.
So now we get to Meta's favorite part of the show. One day, 7 hours, 19 minutes, and 35 seconds away.
And by the time
the Easter egg,
till I find that golden egg.
There you go. And by the time the listeners hear it, we're going to be even closer. So
yeah.
So here's the skinny that they did announce. If you go to the Earth2 YouTube page, they actually have the timer there. And they're going to show some video. There's speculation on some people are speculating that the video is going to pan over the actual eggs. And you're going to have to try to figure out from the video where that location is on Earth.
That's
I don't mind that idea. So I did see that speculation, and others are they're going to speculate hints. We've discussed this a million times before. I don't think you're going to have to buy the tile. I hope you don't have to zoom out to find them. I hope it has to be zoomed in, because if it zooms out, then it's going to really cause server stability.
Yeah, and I'm really excited about the fact that you don't have to buy tiles, because I do think this is really like a sort of giving back to the early, adopter community, so to speak. And even though I don't have any dreams of getting an Easter egg just because of my own caveman brain and technical ineptitude, I am really excited that you don't have to have folks buy things, because otherwise you'd have folks in the chat griping that, oh, this is another money grab type scenario. No, this is quite the opposite. This is a money giveaway. This is a Robin Hood throwing everybody money sort of scenario.
And
so what's your approach?
You know what?
Meta? How are you
I'm
going
still
to
only 90% sure they're going to be on the map. I'm still not 100%. I feel like there could still be a curveball and something unexpected could happen. Only driven, I guess, mainly from Shane's comment about in Discord, where he said, "Who said it's going to be on the map?" If he said that in just a throwaway joke, fair enough. All right, but I feel like he wouldn't have done that. I feel like he said that because there might be something in it. So I wonder, and I've had some crazy theories. So go on.
No. Could it possibly be somewhere on the Earth2 website?
I think
on the map, but on the website.
If it's not on the map, I think the only other real option is that it's on a Mapbox app. Maybe. Although he did say you only need Twitter. Because I know there was a Pokemon hunt in 2019 where Pokemon partnered with Mapbox, and Mapbox let them use their augmented reality app on the Mapbox app to be able to find Pokemon eggs within the game. So I wonder if, because there's that partnership there, with the Earth2 will say to get it, all you need to do is download the Mapbox app, and you can literally find it in an augmented reality. I don't know, but that's why I'm not convinced.
So there's two conflicting things. Yeah. Time is of the essence with the video, and then patience is a virtue. What do you?
You got to think there's a timing, it's a specific time of day or something like that, right? I don't know. But with the patience is a virtue, I wonder if that's something to do with it will only appear at a certain time. It won't be there all the time, perhaps.
So you have to maybe camp there once you figure out the location and wait.
But they don't stack up there, right? You can't have both. You can't be, because he said very important. He said the word very was in capitals. I don't know.
Yeah. Which is why it makes me think that the flyover idea is actually kind of a good idea, because you have to watch it right away to see where it is on the video, but patience will be trying to find it on the map.
You could be right. If they did a flyover and like you say, and then you had to just rewind the video, keep watching it back and figuring out where the clues were, maybe that's the way they'll do it.
So one positive thing I saw was it's not just 20, it's 250 plus prizes. So we know the 20 eggs. What do you think the other 230 are going to be? Like little gifts, little $1 gifts? I don't think they're going to be eggs and NFTs. I think it's going to be something else.
Yeah, I
So
have to
let's
be
speculate
honest.
on
I
that a
thought that
little
they
bit.
were going to be eggs of sort of, smaller prizes, but that they would still fundamentally be egg NFTs, but that they wouldn't necessarily be the ones that, are like $2,000, $5,000. That just seems like a lot of money for them to be giving out if that's the case for all 250. But you raise a really good point, Hazy. I didn't even consider the possibility of totally different prizes. I mean, could we get some sort of early access resources or a specific asset that we could use later, whether it's something we could build on the property or a vehicle?
Yeah, that's interesting. And I'm thrown by it as well, because to date they've never given away properties or tiles, and I don't know that they will. I don't think you'll win a plot, for example, like you see with other giveaways. I just don't see Earth2 doing that. And are they going to put a $20 prize in? Because you're going to find an egg, think you found the egg, and then it's going to turn out to be a $20 egg. I don't know. Is there going to be multiple eggs?
You know that person.
Yeah,
that person's going to complain
I found
about their free money.
Yeah.
I found an egg, but it was only $20.
Yeah. So I'm thrown by it. Yeah, I really don't know. If I had to guess, I'd go small cash prizes. That's the only thing I can think. Right.
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah.
Small $E prizes. Yeah. But I wonder, how are they going to put 250 plus prizes in a video?
I mean, how are you going to? Yeah, how are you going to find them? Because they're still going to be an egg, or are they going to be like a little stack of dollar bills or something on the map?
Yeah, it's just like that. That number totally threw me off. So like maybe the 20 eggs are in different locations, and maybe like the second person to find it gets a little prize.
Well, if it's not an egg, I want it to be a little like Scrooge McDuck falling out of the closet on a sea of coins kind of image. That's what I'm looking for.
And I love how he said allegedly no riddles. He said no riddles, and then he put a riddle. Pretty much, what could be read as a riddle? Yeah.
Well, and especially, I mean, even if he says no riddles, we're all gonna try to reverse engineer this. Yeah, exactly.
to make it a riddle. And let's not forget the announcement was
as I'm connecting yarn to my wall, putting my little string map together, trying to figure out every Shane tweet. Well,
all right, so that's about to wrap it up. But I did want to talk about the giveaway we talked about on the last episode. Unfortunately, we're going to have to postpone that one for a little while because Apple Podcast reviews are not quite working for our podcast yet. But on a brighter note, good fellow Kangy here is going to do a little giveaway on this episode that we think will work.
Yeah, absolutely. So there is a listing in Honduras for 15 Class 1 tiles. The price is astronomically high right now. It's listed for $4,444 in honor of our 4th episode. But you'll see that it's listed by Kangy. The name matches the name on the podcast. First person to bid in any capacity will have their bid canceled and will be deemed the winner. And the listing will have the name changed to property of whoever it is that won this. The reason I'm doing it this way is because we still can't really do 1-cent bids right now, but they are working on better mechanisms for giveaways. So you have my word that you will get this. So again, it's 15 Class 1 tiles in Honduras, listed for over $4,000. Should be pretty easy.
Awesome. Just found it. I've just put my bid in. Thank you.
All right.
It's all a scam.
Cheater!
Now it's really a scam.
All right, Meta. Well, it was really a pleasure to have you on with us today. Can you share your social media,
on YouTube, it's just Earth2 Meta. You'll find me on there. And I'm very active on Twitter as well. So if anybody wants to have a chat, feel free to drop me a message. It's just Earth2_Meta on Twitter. And hopefully someone get in touch to have a chat. Happy to always share wild theories if anybody wants me to make some guesses.
Oh, we'll definitely have you back on. I think the METAnomics
will
be a regular recurring feature, hopefully. I did too. Well, that's going to wrap up this episode of My Name is Human Earth2.io podcast, brought to you by E2.news. Thanks everyone for listening. Please like and review it if you can, and we would appreciate that. And go get that Kangy property. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you next time.
messieurs.